Corrupt politicians are an inevitability. About once every 2 years, they seem to crawl from caves, out of holes, and exposed by the mainstream media. Why do they steal, embezzle, launder, racketeer, cheat on spouses, take kickbacks, and steer multi-million-dollar contracts to their offices and friends? Is it that important to get money illegally from the public and then spend it on casinos and tuition for children and grandchildren? Or maybe you need your office remodeled like Downton Abbey? Should we add term limits to all government officials or just the potentially bad ones? License for bribes, selling Senate seats, and spending money on slot machines next on CounterPoint with Gerard McClendon. License for bribes, selling Senate seats, and spending money on slot machines. Politicians are supposed to model the public trust, but why do some steer clear of fairness and honesty seduced by filthy lucre? Give me a call, 844-777-9311, Twitter, Facebook, to Gerard MC at the Counterpoint. I've got Jerry Riles from the Rewind Sports 60. I've got Kathleen Murphy from the Illinois Opportunity Project and Matt Reardon from MRC Partners. Welcome, you three. Thanks for being on Counterpoint. Appreciate it. You know what? So, politics. The people we trust, politicians, public officials, we vote them into office. We trust them. They kiss babies. They go door to door. They ask for signs to be in our yards. They may have pancake breakfasts for us, you know? We pay their salaries, the public, but sometimes we can be so ignorant. So I ask you three, with probably the most political intelligence and acumen that I can muster on this panel, what makes politicians corrupt? Is it the nature of the job? Is the person who becomes a politician already corrupt, or do they become corrupt once they get in that position? Who dares to answer that question? Matty Matt.
All right. Thanks, Gerard, for having me on. Always love being here. Great panel, as always. Dig it. Love being on your show. And appreciate the opportunity. So I saw the topic. We were going through it a little bit. And I said, corruption. I'm like, yeah, I love politics. Use that dust off my poli-sci degree from Loras College and have a talk about this. Seems that politics and corruption have been going on since there's been politics. And, absolute power corrupts absolutely and all those things. But I think what we're getting at today with the show is what happens? I don't think to a person, people go into public office with the thought that this is how I'm gonna get it.
You don't think
I'm gonna get down.
You don't think they go in with that mindset?
I don't believe so. At least none of the ones that I am personally familiar with. I've not met a person that says, you know what, this is it. I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna figure out how to weasel some cash. I'm gonna steer some contracts, and we're gonna direct all this dough this way, and I'm gonna get paid on the back end. I haven't met anybody.
But once
now,
they
people
get
I
in
know.
there,
Now they've done just that, and some of them went to jail for it.
Yeah.
And I can't speak to that mindset at the time, but when it starts out, I think people really intend to do a good job.
Yeah,
I really do.
So they come in good. They don't come in with the intent of becoming corrupt or doing something that's corruptible. But Kathleen Murphy, it ends up happening. Now, I want to put a disclaimer out there, and actually I want to clear the air by saying that most politicians aren't bad people. Most politicians, for the most part, I would think, quantitatively aren't corrupt. But there's that small number. Are they already corrupt, Kathleen? Do they come in corrupt? Do they become corrupt? What do you think?
I don't know what's in people's hearts when they start something, but I do know once they get into office, there are a lot of people around you who don't want to tell you no because they don't want to lose access, whether it's lobbyists, whether it's your staff, whether it's media people. So there are a lot of people who don't say, it's hard to tell somebody who has power over you, who's bigger than you, you can't do that, this is the wrong decision, because you want, staff members want to move up the ladder too, just like politicians. They want, everybody has ambition in politics. There's no denying that. So I think that there's a lot of yes people around them, and that kind of starts to spiral with some people. I think certainly in the case of Aaron Schock, nobody told him no.
Yeah.
And then we had the Downton Abbey office.
I think the U.S. prosecutor did, though.
That's where it stopped.
Schock thought he was invincible, good-looking guy, handsome,
friends with Taylor Swift.
Friends with Taylor Swift, he's got killer abs, to be in Congress, and but everyone has an Achilles heel, right? Just like some athletes, Jerry Rouse from the Rewind Sports 60, Pac-Man Jones in trouble again. We know that those Patriots have cheated on many occasions.
No, come on now. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we deflate
Tom
gate
Brady,
as well
come on now.
let's fly a drone over the opponent's
America's
practices.
team, so to speak.
And so it happens in sports. It happens in politics. Is fairness gone, Jerry?
It depends on how you define fairness. How we learn fairness is if you treat your brother, your sister, your man equally, and it's even trade or even deal. But in fairness, when you talk about politics, my interpretation is, and you said the word power. If I have power over you and say I give a family member or one of your family members a job, then it's only fair for you to do what I ask you, whether right or wrong.
Wow.
Because I have the power over you. I grew up in Chicago, and one thing I like to say about the city of Chicago is a city that works. The city that works against you.
Oh.
Okay?
Wow.
It's interesting because I kind of disagree. I think a lot of people who get involved in politics, I think that they actually know that if they get the power and the control, they can manipulate people, and the word you use, Matt, the system.
Yeah.
So you can't go into a political arena such as Chicago or anywhere for that matter, in my opinion, and try to be above board and be fair and be correct, because the old saying is, in order to be trusted, you have to have a little dirt on you.
Yeah. Well, and that's certainly true in Chicago and Illinois politics. I mean, if you look at people like Mike Madigan and Rahm Emanuel to some degree too, but Mike Madigan's certainly the most powerful man in the state, and he has spent decades building this machine with layers and layers of bureaucracy protected, all of these people now have vested interests in him staying in power to keep these jobs, patronage, and all of that has surrounded him. So now you have thousands of people invested in keeping you in power to hold on to their little fiefdoms.
Yeah, this is interesting because in the business world, you make a widget, you sell a widget, you hope that a lot of widgets are sold so you can hire more employees, so you as a CEO or as a manager, as a salesperson can make more money, and it's somewhat of a quantitative level playing field that the market basically determines. In politics, it's about power. And so, but even though you have that power, you still have to have a moral authority. And so I'm going to go through some of these names, and then you guys jump right in. I see you, Jerry. I see you, Matt. You got Alderman Willie Cochran, who's been indicted. But in the same, I believe, ward, back in the day, Cliff Kelly was indicted, Arenda Troutman was indicted, almost a ward that has been plagued by corrupt politicians. We're looking at Congressman Schock, Jesse Jackson Jr., Jesse Jackson Jr.'s wife, Sandy. Let's spend some misappropriated funds. Locally, man, we got Sheriff Bunsich with an indictment, and the list goes on and on. Earlier, Kathleen, you brought up Rita Crunwell, comptroller of Dixon, Illinois, embezzles $53.7 million with that cute little innocent face riding horseback. Who would have thought that this would occur. It just keeps happening by people who we don't think would do this. Matt.
So when people are complicit in the crime, that's what builds up these layers. So now you're got, hey, I took care of you guy, you take care of me, and everybody kind of knows how it is. And you know, the one thing I'll say about all this political corruption and campaign finance and all of it is tied directly together. You know what? The Indiana General Assembly opened up, let's see, the House was today. I wonder how many bills directed at campaign finance reform were filed. I'm guessing none.
Wow.
Because you know when they do, you know what happens? They get thrown in the round file. Now, the last substantive change we've had in federal legislation related to campaign finance and money and power, related to being able to cloak where you got the money from in order to get the power. So inherently in the system that we've set up, we allow people to make a living being lobbyists to go tell people who are elected, Gerard, hey, this is the best thing for you, and I'm going to tell you why. In the meantime, I'm getting paid by Big Pharma or somebody else to go tell you what and why. Perfectly legal. So there are elected officials that understand that there are legal methods to work in, and there are people who cross that line. I was told by a gentleman, and God rest his soul, Jim Shanahan, he told me, he said, you know one thing, Matt, he goes, there's plenty of money to make in government, honestly, because they always have it to spend.
Wow, this is interesting because, and I'm going to talk about AAU sports and tie it into politics in the next segment. But Jerry, you had a comment before we break.
No, I just know that there is something, we talked about the smaller townships, and there's a gentleman I know who's a village president of a particular town, and he was out of work. His home was under foreclosure. The community leaders knew he was desperate. And so what they did, and these are big time players in this village, and they approached him and said, hey, we will make you the village president, but you have to work under our guidance and be our puppet, so to speak. And you would think that this was an honest guy, family man, but he knew exactly what he needed, he knew where to go, and he capitalized on it, and his life certainly changed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, corruption and politics, it goes hand in hand, unfortunately, the way that I see it.
Yeah, you know, we're going to break here shortly and continue. Are term limits the answer to keeping corruption out of our politics or not? How can public figures be swayed from their duties serving the people? Is it worth it? We'll be back in a moment. Tweet me, post on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. Let's start the conversation. Your voice is important on CounterPoint. Sexting with the underaged. License for bribes, selling Senate seats, and spending money on slot machines. Politicians are supposed to model the public trust, but why do some steer clear of fairness and honesty, seduced by that filthy lucre? Call me, 844-777-9311. Gerard MC on Twitter and Facebook. At the Counterpoint, I've got Jerry Riles from the Rewind Sports 60, Kathleen Murphy, Illinois Opportunity Project, and Matt Reardon from MRC Partners. Thanks for sticking with me for the next segment here. I was thinking about sports and how sports has a political bent and politics has sometimes an athletic or sports bent. There seems to be opponents trying to get the upper hand, the edge on the other opponent, throwing dirt, showing prowess. And I was watching an amazing documentary on AAU basketball and how corrupt at times it can be. And so there's this interesting cycle where AAU teams are basically sponsored by the shoe companies. All right, so the shoe companies want to make sure that their emblem, their logo is out there. The shoe companies, they basically are pay for the games, the scouts, and the camps. All right, this gives exposure to the young basketball players, which can range from 6 years old all the way up through 18 or so. And then what's interesting is while everyone's making all this money and while everyone's getting their number 1 through number 13 or 14 scouting choices with the universities, the children are lured by the shoes. Wow. So the people with all the talent, even on the AAU level, are being exposed, or I should say exploited, all right? So the same goes for politics. Are we in a situation where once I get that power, I can just exploit? Is that the reason why a person should go? I'm looking at some names here, and it's frightening because a lot of these names are people who we thought were honest people. Blagojevich, what did Blagojevich do? Hey, he reduced the prices in Illinois for seniors' pharmaceutical products and prescriptions. He also got free public transportation for seniors. He can't be that bad of a guy. I'm looking at Otto Kerner, governor from 1961 to 1968 in Illinois, spent 3 years in prison after being convicted of bribery. There's always Governor Ryan, license for and the list goes on. Dan Walker pleaded guilty to bank fraud 1987. Anthony Weiner, you talk about public trust. Anthony Weiner, happily married, puts a little mousse in his hair, falls in some kind of lust with a young lady on the internets, pardon the plural, and he starts sexting. Really? Really? Are these the people that what do we do about this?
Well, in Washington, D.C., some of the stories that we're hearing, Gerard, that we're talking about, and some of the people that you've mentioned, which is surprising, but some people allege that on Capitol Hill in New York that, more and worse things are taking place, but because of the arena, because of the people involved, and because of power that they possess, it goes under the table. So
should we be surprised by this? And the reason why you're on the show today is because this, I don't know if we expect it to happen in sports, but at the same time, we still want sports to be fair. We don't want people juicing up on steroids. We don't want people using banned substances. But at the same time, we do want to see the long ball.
But
we want to see home runs, don't we?
You're right. I mean, politics, you have a politician coming out of school, a bright lawyer. You start grooming him early on and get them accustomed to the game of how it's played and who are the major players and who are not the major players. The same with sport. You use the word exploit. I kind of go back and forth on the fence as far as exploiting these kids because one, the kids and their parents want to be in this AAU arena because of the exposure. And two, it puts them on a higher platform and let people know that I am the next tier, so to speak. I'm the next generation. And many of the professional athletes that we're watching currently today on Sundays when we turn on the NFL or we turn on the NBA, a lot of these players have been groomed. The NHL, they've all been groomed to reach a certain level.
Just like politicians. A lot of politicians are groomed. A lot of them have same family name. That family name goes a long way. Kathleen, you had a comment.
Well, I just it seems to me that some of this should be on us because there is an attitude in the populace in general, and I think in the Republican Party and kind of those who lean libertarian, that all I care about is keeping my taxes low, and whatever they do in their private life, I don't care. And all of this goes to character. I mean, every politician that you've listed off, this all goes to character, what you're willing to do and what you're willing to compromise and how much of yourself you're willing to compromise. I mean, maybe we should care a little bit more about what they do in their private lives and not just care about keeping our taxes. I mean, maybe we should look at those things, and that should matter to voters a little bit more.
So, Rich James wrote an interesting article a few years ago, Northwest Indiana editorialist, and he said that term limits probably aren't the answer. Yes, a term limit will work for someone who is totally corrupt. We want that person out, right? At the same time, a term limit could get rid of someone whose time is expired and then they're kicked out of office because of the term limit, but they may have been doing a fantastic job. So I want to talk about term limits as far as footnote B, but footnote A, I want to go to Matt Reardon on this. Matt, MRC Partners, before that you've worked in some pretty high-powered jobs in economic development.
Yep.
You've facilitated extremely large multi-million-dollar budgets. When it comes to public office and when it comes to the public dollar, you know what, Matt? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's easy to steal public money. I mean, you
just read a list of about 50 people that didn't have much problem doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's there for the taking because, and I suppose it's things like lack of term limits, and the argument goes back and forth. You know, the voting booth is the term limit, the ultimate term limit. But with that being said, you know, the way that Indiana, for example, is laid out in Rich James' article. It's like, well, you know, why does the sheriff have only 2 terms and why does the surveyor have no terms? And I'll say this, look, first of all, why am I electing these people anyway?
Wow.
Right? So then I don't have to worry about it. So I have a sheriff, I hire a law enforcement person. You know, the head of the FBI isn't elected, he's appointed. So as far as let's say the assessor, I get a real estate professional. What are you doing? You're assessing property or an appraiser, and so on. So there's room to, if the change wants to happen, if people have the financial wherewithal to make it known and to push the elected officials to do so. But as I said, how many bills at the Indiana General Assembly right now are talking about term limits or campaign finance reform? How many in Illinois are about campaign finance reform? Who in Washington, D.C. has mentioned anything about, hey, you know, we got to get this campaign finance under control? In the meantime, you have all these presidents in the past election, the presidents, the senators, and the congressmen spending all this money, and the system continues.
The system continues. So when we
Can I
talk,
jump in here real
yeah,
quick?
go ahead.
Let me say this to you. You know, we talk about, we joke about Chicago being a city, you know, whatever. But if you really look at it, and Kathleen, you talk about the people have to stop it. It's not going to stop because here's why it's not going to stop. You have the mayor of the city of Chicago, the current one, Rahm Emanuel, the former Mayor Daley. And no mayor has been under any type of corruption in the city of Chicago over the past 40 plus years, maybe further than that. And the reason being is because of the layers that they have surrounding them that protects them. And that's why you see these aldermen fall into the wayside, because they are the scapegoat for the head of the political machine, which is the mayor in the city of Chicago. Now, if you remember when Rahm Emanuel was up for election, he was really afraid and really nervous, and people came out and said they weren't going to vote for him. But what happened were the community leaders and activists that got him in the room, sat him down and said, this is what you need to do for our community if you want to maintain that seat. So when you talk about the people coming in and make a difference, it's the community leaders looking to get a piece of that pie, some of that scratch, get their
So that cheese.
Exactly.
So Jerry Riles, so you're, oh God, I got to bring a sports analogy in because you're the Rewind Sports 60. So you're saying that the mayor of Chicago, which is arguably one of the most powerful political offices that you can hold in the United States, if not the world, you're saying that the mayor of Chicago has a better offensive line than other politicians, regardless of, so you're saying that they have a better offensive line than, let's say, possibly the governor, congressman, senators.
He's got a better offensive line than Rod Blagojevich had, because he didn't have any buffers.
Yeah.
And George Ryan.
Blagojevich, his was just pure, so we go from power to greed. And that's, so with the power, he really overstepped his boundary because of the greed involved. And when, you guys remember the old Flintstones, Fred Flintstone, and the dollar signs, jing, 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 jing.
Yeah.
That was Rod Blagojevich because he saw the dollar signs and he just totally got blind.
Couldn't stop.
But there is still an attitude in Illinois politics among, I'm not going to say one party or the other, but people who were close to that investigation and close to that the punishment was way too severe for the crime because everybody does it. I mean, that's kind of that was the attitude. And I was really surprised to hear that. But you know what? They said the punishment did not fit that's still kind of the attitude in Illinois
that's
politics.
true.
14 years is a pretty long time
It is
for doing
true.
what that guy did. And he didn't have a buffer.
No,
Right.
but the
The
reason it's so severe is because they wanted to make an example of him because he was boisterous and arrogant, and every time he got in front of the cameras, he would boast, hey, listen to all the tapes. I want you to hear everything. I don't care if you're bugging me. And so if you're in that political arena and you know the criteria, you can't start pointing fingers and start You can't do that,
You
and that's why
can't-
they're setting an example.
Yeah, I understand
You
that
can't
point. 'Cause
point fingers and be arrogant when you have perfect
When
hair.
you're wrong.
You have perfect hair like Rod Blagojevich, which is going from black to totally gray behind bars right now. Matt Reardon, you're going to get the last word, man. I got about 15 seconds. You're saying campaign finance reform,
I'm saying,
man.
listen, this all ties back to the money. So I have a system that's built on lobbyists that have money, that fund campaigns, that have an expectation of results and access. So that's the system.
Yeah.
So until there's substantive changes to how the system works, it's in play. There's plenty of rules to follow. You know, elected officials need to follow them, as do the consultants that work in that arena. As I said, the government's never going to run out of money, and if they do, we're all in trouble.
Wow, because the bottom line is every year the levy takes care of the city, and my property taxes I have to pay twice a year. Man, I just need to know that the people who govern my money are going to do the right thing. Thanks to my guests, Jerry Riles, Kathleen Murphy, Matt Reardon. Note to politicians, keep your noses clean. There is no perfect crime. For every way of escape, there are 9 ways to get caught. Gerard MC on Twitter, on Facebook. Stay positive. I need you to keep your head up and always be encouraged to voice your counterpoint. Have a great week.